Hello, Jaime from Inky&Scrappy, back today with my Let's Start Stamping series, and we're gonna do something a little bit different, kind of, I guess, mixed media, but it's really not. So I had this idea and I wanted to see if it would work and how it would come together. So I did it with my niece and my sister-in-law this week, and so I figured I would show you. It did work out well. So I had, I was like, oh, I know what I want to do. So for this one, we're gonna bring in a piece of just white tissue paper. You could use vellum if you have vellum, and that's what my original plan was, but I figured since we're doing the Let's Start Stamping series, and we want to use it with supplies that you might have on hand, on top of those basic first, I figured white tissue paper was probably something everybody could find. This one has a sheen to it. I probably picked it up either at the dollar store or Dollar General, around Christmas time, because that's usually when I use it. Today I'm bringing in the Otterly Love You by, this is an older MFT stamp set. It's a cutie. So I'll bring in a few images. We'll get to that coloring first. But first I want to do, and of course we're bringing in our Bristol Smooth cardstock. So we have a card base to start with. We're going to have this, and I need my straight brush. I had it yesterday. Sorry, I had to go rescue my brush from the other room. So I'm going to bring in just some distress things today. I'm going to use the big ones just because it'll save me a little bit of time. So I think I'm going to do Villainous Potion and Uncharted Mariner. And then of course we have the sparkly and shiny stuff from Windsor and Newton Iridescent Medium. And we'll kind of mix that to give it a little bit of, a nice little glittery effect to it. You could definitely use just watercolors, anything on that respect. So I'm just going to make my palette off to the side here. I'm going to smush these. Ooh, that one is super juicy. I forgot that it was super juicy. So, and then Villainous Potion on the other spot. So I have that dark tealy color and that dark purple. I'm going to start with my background on this one first because I want that one to be darker than my tissue paper, and I'm not going to add the iridescent to my background. So I think we're going to start with this one, and I'm just going to add, I should probably grab my spray, just my plain water. I'm going to add a little bit of plain water to this one because you want to water it down a little bit if you're smushing your pad. That's got that resin in there, and it will, if you do it straight, it's not going to dry as quickly. And so we're just going to go and do a really fast kind of watercolor on here just to wash across the top. So I'm going to come down a little over half with that one. And then I'm going to do the same with my purple, but I'm going to come up from the bottom on it. And we're doing this step first because it's going to require some dry time. So I'm just going to come up on this one and then kind of overlap them a little bit. I'm going to get a little bit of color variation. Granted, you don't see a whole lot of this one on the finished card, but you can also come in and do maybe some streaks and some lines here to kind of give you some movement with that water. And I'm going to do the same with that purple just to kind of give it a little bit of movement. So if you don't have tissue paper and you want to do something similar, that would work. Just do multiple layers of cardstock. You're not going to be able to see your otters. So I'm going to set this off to the side and let it dry. I am going to clean my surface here quick, just because I don't want to get both of those. I mean, I'm gonna get both of them on my tissue paper, but I kind of want a semi-clean surface to start with. So I'm gonna bring my tissue paper in, and again I'm bringing in that Winsor Newton Iridescent watercolor additive. I did find, so Armichael's doesn't carry this one, but it's online and it's in some stores. Ours is just a smaller one, I think. I'm going to add that to both of those. It's going to give it that beautiful iridescent shiny look. So you can definitely add that to the background if you want, but most of my background is going to be covered up, so you're not really going to see it. So that's why I wasn't too worried about it. And we're just going to paint this over the top. Water it down as much as you want for your layers. I don't want it to be too dark, but it's really not going to matter, to be honest. And I really don't need the whole thing, so I'm just probably going to go down, you know, a little over a quarter of the way. I don't need to go all the way to half on this one. Once I have that done, I can lift that up, and you can see how it's wet, you know, so it's super wet. It goes through. It's fine. So whoops, I'm going to clean that off of my placemat here. And then I'm going to lay it back down and do it on the other. And you can do it on the bottom if you so choose, you know, just coming up from the bottom. I like working top down, so that's kind of why I move my piece around. And then we're just gonna do the same thing with that purple. Of course, the bigger the round brush, the faster it gets done. Or the flat brush, I should say. Or round, if that's what you have. The other way to do this one would be some ink smooshing. So ink smooshing is basically what I did on the side mat here. And then I would just blot it up. So I'll show you that method. So I have this one done. I'm going to find a spot to put it where it's not going to get into anything. Kind of just let it dry on its own. Let's see, I do have a scrap piece here. Well, okay, I don't really have a scrap piece. I have a new piece of tissue paper here. So let me just cut a little bit off. So basically, if you're gonna do, I would do it this way because it's gonna give you some more color variation, but just kind of picking it up off of that surface. So you squished it, you wanted to add some water to it, you just kind of blot it on there. And that's going to give you that same, you know, you can definitely mix colors a little bit more this way. If you get your tissue paper wet first, it's going to kind of mute those colors a little bit, but it'll help push them around a little bit more and suck up into your tissue paper. So, you know, it gives a fun new look. Let's just clean this up. So you can definitely get, you know, where you're going to get some color on it. If you don't have a brush or you want to try something different, this is kind of a fun way to get it. I would get a lot more color on there. I'm just trying to show you an option if you wanted to try something other than the brush method. All right, so I'm going to clean this up and I'll be right back. I see we're getting to that time of year where the sun is going to play with my workspace. I might have to put in a darker curtain. Sad days, I tell you. Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to pull in, I actually did 3 images on my last one. So I think I did this one. I'll show you that one when I'm done. But let's do the little waving high one. You know, I can't make the same card twice, right? I'll bring in 3 otters again. I'm going to bring in those rocks. You could definitely do this one with mermaids, with dolphins or whales, fish, anything that you really have that's, you know, sea-worthy, I guess, would work. So let's add those on there. And I have the matching coordinating dies for this one, so I can actually put them fairly close together without, well, actually, if I want to run it through one and done, I'll give them a little bit of room. I can go really close to the edge. Okay, fish. If I can get them on my piece, on my base without sticking to my fingers too bad. Okay, there we go. Push down, pick them up, and then I'm going to bring in my other sheet of Bristol smooth cardstock. I lied. I'm grabbing the Xpress cardstock. It's just my favorite for ink blending out. You can definitely do Bristol Smooth. It does require a little bit of dry time on your ink before you would alcohol ink color it. If you have a heat tool, I would heat set it. Otherwise, letting it dry a good half hour to 20 minutes is probably sufficient. I just know I've had a couple of running issues, and the Bristol Smooth, for some odd reason, it just stays wet a little bit longer than this one. So I'm going to press those on there. I'm using that Lawn Fawn Premium Jet or Premium Ink Black. And then it is alcohol marker friendly. It is also water resistant. So because you watercolored the background, you might want to watercolor your critters. Then definitely use that Bristol Smooth. I am cheating today and using Xpress cardstock. Okay, there we go. So for my otters, I'm going to do some natural, I guess, well, I don't know, orangish browns, I guess. So I did natural oak, brick brown, and terracotta, which is E644, E769, and then E679, in that order, darkest to lightest, okay? And then for my rocks, I'm going to use my blue-gray 170 and blue-gray 069. And then for my little fish, I'm just going to use, I think I'm going to make them orange today. So I'm just going to use one orange. You could definitely, you know, use whatever colors you want. I was trying to keep this one super simple. You don't need all of those markers to color either. So, oh, I'm going to need a red, aren't I? Well, shoot. Let's see. We do vivid. Oh, I could do purple because I have purple in the other, right? It's probably not the right tone of purple. But we'll go with a light purple for the heart. We'll see how it looks. Alright, so the natural oak is the darkest one. You probably could skip this color and go to a lighter, just the lighter two. Should we skip it? Well, I'll do it on the first one, and then we'll probably skip it out on the other ones. So this one is definitely the browner tone of the three, but it does add some nice deep shadow. So I like to go and put my shadows in right away, kind of going where I think it's going to be darkest. Probably have some shadow behind that heart there. Keep in mind that when you go over it with your lighter color, it will bleed it out a little bit. So if you think it's too dark, don't worry. It can be fixable, especially on blended cardstock is really good for kind of fixing those. I think it has a little bit more forgiveness. Does that make sense? You can definitely bleed it out a little bit more or blend it out a little bit more than you can with other cardstocks. Definitely better than, I know a lot of people use Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 80 pound for their coloring, and I tend to have a lot of bleeding with mine, and I don't know, probably because I go over areas more than once if I'm not happy with it. I don't know, it's just not my favorite. Some people have very good luck. I think it's just has a lot to do with your coloring style and what you're used to. And then we'll go over that with my lightest tone here. And I'm going to cheat and use the big side for my bigger areas, just so it goes faster. And yes, I bled in a little bit to the heart because I wasn't paying attention. Goji. Alright. I should probably switch to the small end on this one. Alright. The ear. I'm just going to go over that layer again. It's going to add a little bit more darkness and kind of help blend that in a little bit better there. So there's my first one. Let's do, I really don't like the purple that I have. I think the deep purple. I have a violet one somewhere. Is this, well, that's not really the right color either for the one I want. I have a combo for to match my purple. Let's go with 73, which I think is probably V66 Blue Violet. I don't know if that is in the 60 set or not, so forgive me if it is not. But this is the one I usually use to go with that Villainous potion. And since we're doing Villainous potion on the other, on the background, we're going to come in with the Villainous potion for the heart. And then let's see, if I pull in Pale Blue Violet, which is in the 60 for sure, so don't feel you have to do the dark purple. You could definitely go in and do that lighter purple. I'm just going to kind of bleed this one together. Now, my colors are really far apart, right? So I'm just going to do some tip to tip. So if you take the darker and you feed it into the lighter a little bit, and then start working where you want it to kind of be a little bit darker, and then work to your highlight area, but then you can come in. And then I always make sure that my dark or my lighter marker is back to its original color, so scribbling that out off onto the side to make sure that you're back to your original purple color and you don't have that darker tone in there yet. So okay, let's go on. I'm just going to do the two, Brick Brown and Terracotta, for the last two little guys here. We're girls. So we had a wonderful visit last week. So you missed me last week on Let's Start Stamping. That's because I was enjoying some time with family. It was much needed and much enjoyed. My little nephew is quite the hoot. But we took him to the zoo on Tuesday, and he got to feed the giraffe, and I wanted to feed the otters, but nap time, you know, nap time. Next time I go to the zoo, I'm gonna feed the otters. They were totally adorable and definitely more playful than I expected, because a lot of times they're just not very playful, but they were super playful when we were there, which was fun. I'm going to come in with my lighter tone. And then just color all of that out. Some of it I'm just going to color the whole thing, and then I'll come in after it's dry and do a second layer over where I think it needs to blend a little bit better. So you can do it either way. You can add that right away, but you can see the color variation here where it's just one layer of ink, where it's two layers of ink. So it kind of has that color variation. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing there with the head. I always like to make sure I'm at least hitting the edge of that original first color. You can always, if you feel you went over it too much and it kind of got too light, you can always go back in with that marker a second time just to add highlight, and it'll actually blend it in pretty good without having to hit it again with that lighter tone. I was having a heck of a day staying in the lines today. Anyways, I'm pretty sure they were river otters that they had. I think they actually had multiple otters. The ones that were like in the one pen were definitely like, they were just having a good old time. I got lots of video of them just splashing and playing and running and spinning and doing jumps, and they're always fun to watch when they're up and doing fun things. So anyways, this zoo is only like 20 minutes from us, and I haven't been since my kids were in kindergarten, I think. So it's been a few years, right? Because my youngest one graduated high school this year. So it's been a few years since I've been there, and the amount of stuff that they've done since I was there last, I was overly impressed with everything that they had brought in. They're bringing in tigers this year yet, which will be kind of fun to see. So I'm going to bring my other niece at some point in time, but maybe next year once the tigers are in and settled. But I told her we had to go feed the otters because I want to feed the otters, and she loves otters too. So that's, I think, going to be our date. You know, Jaime and Faith will be going to feed some otters. Okay, I think we got those ones down. I'm going to come in with the big one. I'll come in and hit the areas that I want a second coat on after the big one. Alright, now we'll come in with that little one and kind of hit those areas, going over where I want it to blend a little bit better, where I want a little bit more shade to be. Keep in mind in these, I'm going to have the otters kind of in the water, so literally in the water. You're gonna see part of them, so don't worry if some parts don't look the greatest when you color them, or they're darker than you'd like them to be, because they're going to have to stick, you know, they're going to be underneath that tissue paper, and so to get them to go that way, you know, it's just, you're not going to see, but like their little heads are hanging out, so that's like really all you need to concentrate on. So I'm just going to come in with that orange for the fish. They're little and they're tiny, and they're just going to be kind of some accent pieces. I'm just going to color them solid orange. I'm not going to do, I'll come back in with a second layer on the underside of them, but I'm not really concerned about shading on them. They're tiny, right? So here, I'm just going to go underneath. We'll give them a little goldfish. So that's all I'm doing for the fish, keeping those super simple. And then for the rocks, coming in with that darkest tone first, and there's kind of like some little, you could highlight, leave those as like highlight areas on there. I'm going to come in and just kind of lay these down as my darker areas with the dark, and then I'm going to use those lines kind of as shadow or striation lines in my rock, just to give it a little bit more shape. And then we're going to come in with that lighter tone, and I'm going to go over kind of that area once and let it dry. This one's pretty little, so I'll just go coming in with that one, letting it dry a little bit. I'll hit all of them once with this one. And then once it's dry, I can come back in and kind of go over that first layer of the second color that I did and go over it one more time. It's going to, again, make that first layer darker, and the second layer that I put over, you know, going over them with the second layer is just going to be darker. Does that make sense? I said it wrong. Anyways, one layer of ink versus two layers of ink. So the light and the dark. So I'm going to get out my dies and die cut them all. So I think I have everything cut here. So lining up dies, I usually use washi tape. I was going to say, I have it sitting out. We had a master class. You know, it was just family. Just a master class. They did 4 cards. I did 3 cards and worked on a design team project that I was, you know, slacking on. That's the wrong one. Did I have the right one? Faith was way better at this one than I was, for some odd reason. Okay. This one is my waving one. So these ones line up fairly good here. Kind of tuck in the ears. You can kind of see that they're totally covered by that die. You kind of have just a couple of little areas. This one is this little guy. Now, the best way to snip these apart, since I didn't do this one yet, I usually just, I think this one we picked up at Harbor Freight, but Menards, your local handy store, will have like a little nippers like this. Sometimes they're a little bit thinner. I like to get them a little bit thinner. This one's a little bit thicker than I like. You don't have to get the one at the craft store that's uber expensive. I think these were like $4, $4 or $5, maybe $6. So I just go as close to the die as I can for one of my cuts. And then for the second cut, just going and kind of pinching it, holding it. I'm not snapping it because I don't want it to fly. Well, it flew. But kind of just jiggling it back and forth to get it to cut as close to. I mean, you're still going to have a bump there, but hopefully you're not going to poke yourself with the hard point. I'll finish that one later. But I'm doing the same thing on the last one here. I like to buy, I think these are 6x4 magnet sheets off of Amazon. You can get them fairly reasonable, like 100 pack. I won't ever use that many. That's what I said the first time I bought them. I think I've bought more than one 100 pack now. I think I might have bought 200. The first time I did them, I think I bought a 200 pack, and I was like, oh, these will last me forever. They did not last me forever. Okay, I will finish putting these on, and then I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. If you have a Sidekick, you know you're going to have to cut these kind of out before you run the die through. The Big Shot is kind of nice, or I have the Vagabond, but the Big Shot would be about the same size. It's going to have, you know, one and done run through capabilities as long as you kept your images far enough apart that your dies sit on there. And I reuse the washi a lot of times. Here's, you know, so I'm all about reusing the washi. I have used, I'm trying to think, Post-it tape. I don't find that the Post-it tape is as reusable. I've used mint tape. I think I have a huge roll of mint tape. It's like a 4-inch roll because you use it for masking. And so it's not great for doing this. It's a lot of extra work to do it that way. Last one. I guess I talked you through the whole thing. I'm sorry. You got 20 minutes of coloring and me winding up dies. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, so aside from the little bit of time that I had to do to, you know, run it through the die cut machine, you were here the whole time. This is already dry, and this one is mostly dry. Can you see the sparkle? I don't know if you can see that. You can see it just a little bit on the camera, but it's got some gorgeous sparkle to it. You could definitely add sparkle and splatter to this one if you wanted to. I would have done it probably at this point because it's dry, so it'll react a little bit more and you'll get a little bit more, especially if you're using a distress ink, it'll give you a little bit more of that color. Now for this one, I'm going to bring in a ruler just because I want to kind of cut, I want to have two kind of flatter areas on these. So, whoops, maybe not. So I'm going to cut this one kind of so it's like, I want it to have, well, it's not cutting the greatest. I don't want it to be straight. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I don't want it to be straight. I want it to kind of have some ripples and some ridges in there. And I'm going to do that kind of the same on this one. I just kind of want a flat bottom part so I can see if it'll go this time. It's not all the way like super dry. It's mostly dry. I think I can make that one work. And then this one, let's see if I can get it to, there we go. It's okay if it has like rips, and I want it to look wavy. I want it to have some color to it. So now we can decide if we want purple on the top or purple on the bottom and dark blue on the top. Either one, it's not really going to matter one way or the other. And I'm probably going to layer these every other. Let's go here, here. So the hardest part, so I did cut my base down here is at 5 1/4 by 4. And these pieces, I made sure that they were long enough so they're at least 6 1/2 wide. That way I can wrap them around, but I can also kind of give them some movement and some buckle to them. Now, gluing them down, you have some options. You can use liquid glue. You can try to use the tape runner style glue. I'm going to bring in a little bit of, whoops, my finger getting caught in the drawer. I'm going to bring in some double-sided tape. So this is just regular, I think this is like scrapbook, oh this is Express It, double-sided tape, but they do have, like scrapbook.com has double-sided tape, score style, I call it score style tape. A bookbinding tape is another word that they use, or they can call it. Now on our first ones we did do some glue, and I would suggest doing either a little bit of glue and spreading it out, and so it's just a little tacky. You are gonna be able to see the glue on it, so keep that in mind. Now I kind of want to go, and if you runch it up a little bit, I'm going to try to do this one without glue on the front side. I'm going to try to do this one by just pulling this one up on the back side. I'm going to fold it there and then kind of set it over the top. So now the trick to this is going to be not laying it flat on my table so it doesn't get stuck, right? So I'm just going to kind of scrunch it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be whole, like, I don't know, it doesn't have to be tight. You can definitely do it tight. That's how we did our first one. I just think it's a little bit fun to kind of make it a little not tight. So, and then for your next layer, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. And I'll come back with some glue on that back side in a little bit. Kind of, and you'll see what I mean when I get to kind of the lower layers. And then I'm going to do that layer, and then I'm going to come in with that purple again. This is where I say that background piece, you could maybe leave the bottom half white, but I like that, you know, mine got a little darker this time depending upon what you're using. It might not look so dark on it. Let's see, this one probably could have been cut a little bit smaller. I'm going to just rip. Rippity rip, rip, rip. Okay. And then for this last one here, I'm going to kind of set it over the top where I think I want it. And then fold my bottom underneath. After I pulled that strip, if I didn't explain it, I did pull it. And then for this one, so this is where you can bring your glue in because it's not really going to matter if you see it or not on this one. So I'm going to kind of go under that layer here and this layer here. It's just going to help me not have things sticking out later on. And I like to make sure things are super secured down. So I'm going to just fold this piece up and over, making sure that I kind of miter that corner up. Maybe. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Just kind of miter that corner up. There we go. Now I left the glue on the top here. I'm going to add, or the glue strip, I guess, the double-sided tape on the top with, and I'm going to add, whoops, I'm just going to add that for adding onto my card base later. And the same down here, I can add this, but I'm going to end up using some glue on wherever the tissue tape is, or the tissue paper is, because I don't want the tissue to break away and then it's hanging off the bottom of the card. I'm anal. I know these things. It's okay. Okay. You can say, Jamie, that's way overkill. So there's my card base, right? Or my background, I guess. It's not the full base. But now we're just going to kind of tuck in. This is where you kind of get to play a little bit. Tuck in. You can definitely rip these some more. You could add, you know, once you're all done, you could add glitter glue onto the layers. So I'm gonna throw him down here. Kind of play before you decide where you're putting things. I kind of really like him over here. I like him kind of tucked up and in. Whoops, let's bring that back up. I moved it. I liked him where he was. Okay, he's kind of in the wave there. And this one we can have, this one can be sticking out of the top, kind of waving. I might have to cut him a little bit. So the best thing about tissue paper is it tears easily. And then we'll put those on the bottom and we'll work those in. So let's get our little otter guys in here. Sentiment. So think about sentiment when you're doing it. You could definitely leave, yeah, well, I could tuck him. I should have done the one that goes the other. Well, I have him and him. I could tuck him here. Well, let's tuck the little waving dude here, and then we'll leave room for a sentiment on the top. Okay, I changed my mind. I'm a girl. I'm allowed to. It's expected, isn't it? I don't know. So he's kind of floating on the water with his purple heart. This little dude, well, I kind of like him over here. Okay. Feel free to lay it out and take a picture of it before you get to this, you know, before you get this far. I've already done this one once, so I feel fairly confident in my abilities. Mostly, kind of, sort of. Maybe. Okay. So I'm just gonna frame them in with the little rocks, kind of put the rocks like they're sticking out of the water. You could definitely cut off that white piece on the bottom if you so choose. And then I'm gonna pop. I'm actually gonna do that on this one because I kind of want, I don't want it to be sticking over and out of the top. So I'm gonna let that dry before I cut it. Now we still have those three little fish, right? So they kind of get to fill in the area. Let's grab this one again. And I want to do a sentiment on the top. You could definitely do a sentiment strip on this one if you want. I'm cheating and not taking out my images before I do this. You know, it might be Friday and I might I might be a little behind schedule. I think I'm going to go have an Otterly great birthday on this one. So I'm just going to, for this one, I'm going to center it over the top. I'll show you what I did with the other one. Because I wasn't, you know, I didn't worry about my sentiment until after I was done. Like a good little crafty girl. It's my normal at all. So for this one, I want it in the Onyx, the VersaFine Onyx black ink. It's going to give me that really good impression and that dark black ink. You could definitely do some, whoops, clear embossing powder so you could do some, you know, so you could do the Versa mark and do like a white embossing powder that would stick out a little bit more. I'm happy with how that one looks, one and done, even though I bounced it and it worked out okay. Sometimes not so much. Here's my thing, if you're stamping on it and you mess up, you can always make a label or a banner to go over the top. It's all good. Alright, so now I'm going to add in my little fish. I think I need some color here, maybe. He's jumping out of the water, so he can be up in the air. This one's kind of swimming. I think we're going to have him swimming, let's see, this way. I think they're trying to get away from the otter, so we'll go that way and that way. So I'm just going to have them poking out of the water a little bit, so they're kind of still in the water. make a pretty good triangle. Let's go here with him. Okay, there we go. But feel free to, you know, play with these a little bit, kind of ruffle them, make them look like waves. I would imagine you can get a similar look with vellum. It's going to be a little bit stiffer than that. I've lost my words. With the tissue paper. Huh. Life, I tell you. Good Lord. I'll remember to talk one of these days. Okay. Words is hard. I'm just going to go on the back side and cut off the overhang here. Anything that's hanging over, I think we're good. So for the card base, I have a lot of purple on that one. So let's go with a bluish. Let's see, I have a tealy and a blue. I think this one's probably going to go better than that one. So I'm just going to use a colored card base. I picked these up at Hobby Lobby, has them for fairly cheap card base wise. It's an okay weight paper, so it's not horrible bad. And let's have an Otterly Great Birthday. There's no otter like you. I think I'll do that one. And then we can do, we'll do this cute little guy. Kind of floating over there. So for this one, I'm gonna have to pull some sentiments off here. Okay, so for this one, I'm just gonna pop this one into place here. Again, I'm cheating because this one, I like this one. Okay, it allows me to wiggle, right? Because I don't have to clean off my other stuff, and I can put the other stuff on the, it's just, it gives my messy bee great joy. Okay, I'm gonna add on the no other otter like you. There's no otter like you. You could have definitely done that in some colored ink. I'm gonna come in with a brown for my otter. I picked up the vintage sepia VersaFine ink, and I'm just gonna add that to my otter here. Give him a little bit of brown, so he's not quite as dark. It gives a little bit. You could definitely do that with a Distress Oxide ink to give you a little bit color. I just like how the VersaFine does for sentiments, and since I'm not coloring that one, it's just a little bit of colored ink. All right, so I have ink on my fingers and ink on my thing because, yep. All right, so we're just gonna peel off our backings here. Maybe peel off, peel off, peel off. I'll throw things around. Alrighty, and then I'm just gonna add some glue. I want to add some glue on to top here. See, the white would have kind of looked like white caps, I guess. So if you want to try it, go for it. If you ever put your cards that you make with me on here, please tag Jane at InkyandScrappy on Instagram. Let me know. I'd love to see them. Maybe someday I'll get a web page started on Facebook. It might happen. Don't expect it anytime soon. Okay. You could join the Fab 5 Paper Crafters page or group. I think we have a group. I think, yeah, it'd be the group. And you could post them in there. And just use the hashtag Let's Start Stamping with Inky&Scrappy, and I would see them there. Okay, there we go. So we have an Otterly Great Birthday card using some non-traditional, crafty supplies. But I thought that was a fun look. You get some layers. You probably won't need to go, on the background so much. You probably could even do white underneath. Just do the top colored. I don't know how it would look, but there is, yeah, see, I got inky. I don't know how I got inky fingers everywhere. It happens. Okay. Oh, probably because that was not dry yet because it's Bristol smooth. Yeah, I figured out my dilemma. Okay, so where is my other one? So we used a little bit different color palette, but you get a gorgeous, you know, both of them look, I had better, this one dried a little bit longer because I was, you know, we had to run 3 sets through the die cut machine, and it just took a little longer because I was teaching live. So definitely similar layouts overall. See, yeah, that's funny. I didn't have it by me, but I used 2 of the other ones. So I used this one and that one that wasn't in my original. And so there's no otter like you. I didn't finish the inside on that one. I'll get to it before I put my otters away. But it's kind of just a fun little, you know, we did this one I flipped backwards. So we did Brutus Monroe's Aqua Pigments. So it's like a liquid watercolor. You could definitely do liquid watercolor on these. I wanted to kind of keep with what I told you to get in your base, you know, for your basic starting stuff for watercolor on these. Anything else I missed? I don't know. If you guys have ideas or want to see something specific, please list it down below. I know there's a lot of new releases. I don't know if I'm getting any of the new release stuff for, you know, any of the companies. I do have a few things on the Lawn Fawn one that I would like. We will see how it goes. Other than that, that's all I have for you today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was fun. I didn't know if it would work with the tissue paper, but I was so happy it did the other day because I was like, oh, it'd be so cool because you could see through it. I would probably go with lighter colors than what I went with on this one. Salvage Patina would be really pretty. Salty Ocean, like the lighter blues probably. And that's what we did with this one. We did darker blues, and then we did like a dark blue and a dark teal, and then we did lighter tones of those. So we used 4 colors to get that color variation in these. But we did glue these down on, so I put glue on the side and kind of rubbed glue over the top, keeping in mind I wanted to tuck things behind. So making sure that they didn't get glued down. Anything that overhang is kind of where you could tuck things under and in. So that's definitely an option, and you're going to get more see-through-ish if you add adhesive behind it. So you could do whole sheet adhesive. Just keep in mind you're going to want your otters placed before you put them down. I hope that makes sense. Other than that, let me know if you have any questions or comments below. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Keep getting inky. Bye.